Have you ever stood in a corner of an old library and suddenly felt a certain consciousness in the air watching you? It was not a person, nor a god, but a being sleeping between the pages, waiting to be awakened. It doesn't speak, but you can hear it. It doesn't move, but you feel it approaching. It's a feeling that only comes when you are facing some ancient, forbidden book. And in the Royal Library of Stockholm there is such a book, and it is called The Devil's Bible, Codex Gigas. This is not a book you can read at will. It is sealed in a low-light glass cabinet, guarded by a constant temperature and humidity system, and surrounded by infrared protection. You can't get close to it, you can't even touch it, but you can feel its presence like a silent and solemn tomb or a sleeping god. The book is 92 centimeters long, as thick as a brick wall, and weighs 75 kilograms. It is not like a book, but more like a stone tablet thrown from another world. It is not a reading tool designed for humans, but a ritual prop. Huge size, mysterious patterns, an incomprehensible language combination. What is most fascinating about it is not its size or age, but the legend it carries. It is said that it was written in the dark of midnight. The author is a monk, a dying man. In order to save himself, he did not pray, but summoned the devil. It sounds like a medieval fable, a religious version of Faust. But this book really exists in a real national library, visited, studied, and feared by millions of people. The Devil's Bible is not fiction, it is real, disturbingly real. In the early 13th century, in a Benedictine monastery in Bohemia, now Western Czech Republic, an unprecedented giant book was born. It has no title, but people gave it a name, Codex Gigas, which means giant's book. Why make such a huge book? You know, in the Middle Ages, the production of books was an extremely expensive craft. A piece of parchment required the skin of a lamb, and this book used a total of 320 pieces, which means that at least 160 lambs were sacrificed just to make a book. Its binding is also unprecedentedly gorgeous. The cover is made of solid wood, covered with leather, and inlaid with metal decorations. The interior uses red, blue, green, and gold for illustrations and paragraph decorations. Some letters are so large that they take up half a page, as if every page is written for the gods. What is even more amazing is that the writing style of the entire book is consistent, and there is no trace of handwriting from different people or time differences. There were no tired strokes, no ups and downs in the characters, no signs of interruption. It was as if someone had completed the entire book in one breath without eating, drinking, or sleeping. This puzzled researchers. Some scholars believe that if it was written at normal human speed, it would take at least 20 years to complete. But according to legend, it was completed overnight. Yes, overnight. This is not a joke, but a legend that still circulates among Czech people. A monk who violated church rules was sentenced to the torture of being buried alive. In order to escape death, he asked the abbot for forgiveness and promised to write a book containing all the knowledge of the world overnight. After sunset, he began writing by candlelight. But as midnight approached, he realized that it was impossible to finish. So he made another vow, but this time, not to God. He wrote a contract on parchment, giving his soul to the darkness in exchange for the ability to complete the book. The book is the witness of this contract. The monastery was quiet at midnight. The candles flickered, no one was praying under the cross, and the only sound was the rustling of the pen tip on the sheepskin. That night, it was said that whispers were heard throughout the monastery. Some said it was the wind, some said it was the chanting, and some claimed it was another voice in the flames. The legendary monk was named Herman the Recluse, a taciturn man obsessed with copying, who some monks said was a genius. while others said he was always talking to himself. After being sentenced, he proposed to the abbot that he would atone for his sins with a big book that has never been written before. No one believed that he could do it, but the abbey agreed, perhaps for irony, perhaps to see his despair. He began to write, 1 page, 10 pages, 100 pages. No one knew how he did it. But when the first rays of sunlight shone into the church, his door opened, and on the table, there was the complete Devil's Bible. Legend has it that when the monks opened the book, they found that it contained far more content than the sum of all the books in the monastery, from the Old Testament and the New Testament to astrology, human anatomy, chronicles, encyclopedias, records of the dead, spells, and rituals. The most horrifying thing is page 577, which is a whole page with a picture of a smiling devil sitting in the dark with his hands spread out. On the opposite page, there is a picture of a glowing temple symbolizing heaven. At that moment, some people knelt down, some screamed, and some were silent. Where did Herman go? No one knows. One theory is that he turned into ashes after completing the contract. Others say that he was locked in the book after completing the contract. The book has since acquired its own self. It is no longer a tool, but a container. It contains knowledge, taboos, fears, desires, and even the soul. Some people say that the book will observe everyone who reads it. The more deeply you read, the more deeply it understands you. After that, the book was constantly passed around, collected, and studied. Everyone who came into contact with it experienced some kind of change to a greater or lesser extent, spiritual, fateful, or even realistic. You think you are reading it, but perhaps it is the real reader. Have you ever seen a Bible with a full-length portrait of the devil prominently painted in the middle? This painting, located on page 577 of the Devil's Bible, takes up almost an entire page and is the most chilling part of the entire book. The devil in the painting is as tall as a human, with horns on his head, piercing eyes, naked upper body, and covered in mink fur. The most disturbing thing is its face. She actually showed a subtle smile which seemed to say, "You see me, but you will never understand me." Why would such a large-scale depiction of a demon appear in a manuscript believed to be a religious text? This is not a simple illustration design, but more like a ritual, an image-driven manifestation. What's even more amazing is that, opposite this picture of the devil, there is also a whole page of pictures symbolizing heaven, a magnificent temple, a golden throne, angels and saints shining with light. Thus, good and evil, light and darkness, heaven and hell, are deliberately placed in the same space in the book. Many mystical scholars point out that this is not a coincidence, but a metaphor of visual alchemy, merging opposing elements into one space and awakening the reader's inner binary confrontation and transcendence by gazing at the two images. Psychologist Jung once proposed that true self-integration must face up to the shadow self, the repressed dark subconscious, and this portrait of the devil may be a metaphorical mirror, forcing every reader to face the devil in his own eyes. At the same time, scientists also noticed a strange phenomenon. The color of these pages was much darker and yellower than the rest of the book, and even had burnt spots. The official explanation is that these pages were frequently turned over and exposed to ultraviolet rays for a long time. But there is another popular theory. The pages once turned on their own. At the end of the 19th century, Prague mystic Adam von Seidel claimed to have witnessed the pages turning automatically while he was alone in the monastery reading room. He wrote at the time, "The devil on that page looked at me and laughed. I felt a chill, as if the air in the entire library was sucked away by it." Since then, more legends have regarded this page as the Devil's Door, Some even believe that by meditating and gazing upon the page, a channel can be opened on a conscious level to the dark presence. Perhaps the most disturbing thing about the Devil's Bible is not the image of the devil, but the content of the book. In addition to the complete Old and New Testaments, the manuscript also contains etymology, an ancient Latin encyclopedia that records the classification system of all known knowledge of mankind at that time. Jewish antiquities, a monumental historical work written by Josephus that describes the history of the Jewish nation from the creation to the Second Temple period. The Bohemian Chronicle, an extremely rare regional chronicle, parts of which are no longer extant today. A monastic register of the dead, lists of monks, chronologies, and astrological records. And the most mysterious part, spells, exorcisms, ritual charts, and astrological diagrams. These elements transform the Devil's Bible from a holy book into a medieval encyclopedia of magic, covering the sacred and the forbidden, spirituality and knowledge, faith and operational spells. What is most shocking is that some of the spells are not exorcism techniques, but are suspected to be summoning demons. Some paragraphs are written in irregular Latin spelling, and the content is a mixture of god names, alchemical terms, and astrological arrangements, as if to confuse outsiders. But it seems that there are other insiders who can understand its true intentions. For example, on page 438, there appears the following text: Invoco te, Lucifer, lux veritatis, per hoc sigillum. I call upon you, Lucifer, the light of truth, and take this seal as a covenant. This sentence appears under a group of geometric shapes known as the 7 star symbols. Some scholars speculate that they correspond to the 7 planetary gods, or they may be energy seals used in ritual summoning. In addition, there are chapters on the correspondence between astrology and body parts, dream decoding methods, meditation roadmaps, etc., forming a complex system that almost spans religion, astrology, alchemy, and folk rituals. This is not a book, but a sealed space with words as its carrier, a compressed version of some medieval ideology, wrote occultist Hermann Recht in his study. Many modern decryptors believe that the entire Devil's Bible may be the inherited book of a certain secret school. It uses the Bible as a cover, but is actually a collection of alchemy, consciousness research, forbidden summoning, and spiritual technology. Beneath the surface, hidden is a knowledge system that manipulates reality. This book is not only difficult to explain, but also difficult to own. Since its creation, it seems to be controlled by some kind of fate, circulating in different power centers, and every time it changes hands, it is almost accompanied by strange decline and death. One of the most famous examples is Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II. In 1594, the Devil's Bible became part of his private collection. The emperor was keen on alchemy, spiritualism, and astrology, and was known as the Hermit King of Austria. He enshrined the huge book in the secret library of Prague Castle and sat in meditation and gazed at the image of the devil in it for more than an hour every day. His later years were dominated by madness. His power collapsed, his court lost control, his brothers rebelled. Eventually, he was deposed and died in depression. Some historians believe that the Devil's Bible may have deepened his mental hallucinations, causing him to become overly obsessed with the occult and lose his judgment of reality. The book was later looted by Swedish troops in 1648 and taken back to the Royal Library in Stockholm. However, several Swedish nobles who came into contact with the book also experienced cases of madness, mysterious deaths, or sudden silence. Although there was no official recognition, rumors followed. There is a modern secret. In the 1980s, the Royal Library of Sweden briefly opened the Devil's Bible for research scholars to consult. During this period, a book restorer from the UK suddenly fainted when he touched the book. He claimed that when he turned to the devil's page, he felt a claw pressing on his chest. After that, he suffered a mental breakdown, resigned, and returned to his country, living in seclusion until the end of his life. What's even more disturbing is that the book itself seems to be restless. According to the library's internal records, the cover of the Devil's Bible changed in 2002, 2009, and 2016. Without any interference, the staff found that the cover automatically turned to the page with the devil's portrait and stayed there for several days. A Swedish library administrator once whispered, "It's not a book, it's a kind of sealed consciousness." Is this just coincidence? Or, as the old adage goes, the devil is never summoned, he's just waiting for you to turn the page. Chapter 7. Conclusion. Is the devil in the details? How should we understand this book? It is a monster of words and a mirror of consciousness. It is too big to ignore, but it is also too hidden to be disturbing. It is the embodiment of religion, yet it also has pagan undercurrents. It is called the Bible, yet it has the image of the devil at its core. What we are dealing with is not just a medieval document, but a sealed conceptual structure. Does the devil really exist? Perhaps this is not the key question. The real important question is, who is reading this? Why are you attracted to it? Do we really understand what the devil is? In Latin, diabolos means splitter, the force that disrupts order, destroys harmony, and makes things go off track. It was precisely this destructive thinking that brought about the awakening of consciousness after the Middle Ages. When a person stares at the devil, he is actually staring at the part of his heart that he has never acknowledged. The smiling devil is not the embodiment of Satan, but the shadow in the depths of your soul that has not yet been integrated. This book has never been banned. The fact that this book was not included in the list of banned books of any Inquisition is puzzling in itself. In the age of fire and persecution, when even the Encyclopedia of Astrology could hardly survive, the Devil's Bible has been circulated in the most mysterious hands of mankind: abbots, emperors, alchemists, cryptographers, mystics, library watchmen. It is like a seed, sown in the shadow corners of every era. You can say it is a culmination of medieval human knowledge, or you can say it is a deeply structured magic system. But no matter how you define it, it quietly affects those who come into contact with it. If it is a ritual, imagine a monk on the eve of being sentenced to death abandons the hope of salvation and instead asks for knowledge. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not pray for heaven. He only asked for a container of knowledge. On that night, he reached an agreement with a certain existence and created a book that can transcend time, power structures, and boundaries of thought. And you are now a part of this reading ritual. And the facts prove that this book has indeed changed a corner of the world. An anonymous scholar wrote in the 20th century, "Knowledge is more terrible than any devil, because it does not take away your soul, but makes you begin to doubt whether the soul exists." The ultimate question: who is the author? History cannot confirm the true identity of the monk, and no signature is left in the book. Does this mean that the real author of this book does not belong to the human world? Or perhaps closer to the truth, this book is the product of countless consciousnesses, symbols, desires, and fears. It is a product of the times and an afterimage of humanity's struggle between faith, death, and eternity. It is both the crazy work of one person and the crystallization of the subconscious of an era. So, let's go back to the original question. Do you believe that the Devil's Bible is the work of the devil? Perhaps the real answer is, the devil never wrote it. The devil just made you unable to resist opening it.